the research shows this very clearly, that people who are they're overweight generally, they statistically underestimate how many calories they're eating, and people who are underweight and struggle to gain weight statistically overestimate how much they're eating.
I never want to track a calorie in my life.
Yes.
So what do you tell those people?
I ate 1 Big Mac a day, every single day, and I was able to lose like 7 pounds in 30 days.
Are there certain things you should do to make sure that you can continue to have sex?
I don't know, like for me, doing like a max effort hip thrust doesn't really replicate what sex looks like, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
I think it makes for a good, really clickbaity Instagram video, but like that doesn't actually make the most sense to me. I see coaches programming a lot of exercises that should not be programmed. I think the worst one of all.
Welcome back to the Rena Malik MD podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rena Malik, urologist and pelvic surgeon. Today, our guest is Jordan Syatt. He is a 5-time world record powerlifter and certified coach from Precision Nutrition and Westside Barbell. He even serves as personal nutritionist and coach to Gary Vaynerchuk. He has a massively successful online platform through his Instagram, YouTube, and podcast where he reaches individuals around the world to teach them how to optimize nutrition and strength training in their lifestyle. Today, we talked about the truth about calories in, calories out, how to get motivated and design the optimal program. We talked about the importance of walking as well as designing a strength workout in terms of reps, acceleration, and speed. We even talked about the best exercises to improve sexual performance. We discussed periodization as well as the importance of sleep and how to recover from injury. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Jordan was a wealth of information and truly a wonderful guest to have on. It's so great to meet you. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I wanted to say on the recording, so my wife has been looking at your stuff before I came out to come on the podcast. My wife is, and she loves you.
Oh, thank you.
She literally like an hour ago, she was just like, she knows so much about everything. Like, what does she not know about? She absolutely loves you, and I wanted to make sure you knew that.
Thank you. Well, I love your content. As I was telling you before we started, you make me laugh. You convey content in such a great demeanor. It's factual. It's no nonsense. It doesn't mess around, and I really appreciate it.
Coming from you, that means a lot. So thank you.
Yeah. So one of the things you talk about a lot is calories in, calories out.
Yes.
And people hate it. People don't want to believe that they're in control of what they're putting in their mouths, and that can affect their weight. So why are people so resistant to it?
There's many reasons why there's resistance to it. It's very multifaceted. So I think number one is there's a lot of conflicting information, right? So literally people have sent me videos or screen recordings of me talking about calories and saying how they're very important. And literally the next video is someone saying how calories are not relevant. They don't matter, blah, blah, blah. It's not calories in, calories out. So number one, I think people are confused. And that is one of the major foundations. In addition to that confusion, I think many people have been told that there's something outside of their control that's leading to them not being able to make progress, usually weight loss related, whether it's hormonal, whether it's age, combination, blah, blah, blah. And they've been led to believe that it's so far outside their control that when someone does say it is in your control, they take that at great offense and they get really upset about it. When I talk about calories and how it's something that's in your control, the other aspect is people think I'm saying it's easy. When you talk about calories, it breaks it down to be something very simple. And see, people conflate simple with easy. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying everyone has it the same. In the same way, not everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Different people have different life struggles and things going on. But just because it might be more difficult for someone based on a variety of factors doesn't mean it's not that simple. I think that's where the confusion comes from, and that's where the anger comes from, when the truth is, especially fat loss, really boils down to calories in, calories out, but it's not as easy as calories in, calories out. It's just that simple.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to satiety and what you're eating and how full you feel.
Yes.
Whereas the same calorie can feel different.
Yes, exactly.
And your body can process that calorie differently.
Yep.
So is it true then, because I will say I've even come to, at some point in my career, thought that calories in, calories out was too simple.
Yeah.
And obviously I've come around. But, because I think you hear so much information and you see reputable speakers saying there's this data behind this or XYZ, and they're taking small data and extrapolating it and making a big production out of it. And so I will admit to being confused myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's very complicated. But I will say in our culture, they'll say things like, "Mata kuch bhi nahi khada," which means I didn't eat anything. Like, I don't eat anything. And you're like, oh, but you had tea this morning with a cookie, with like 3 cookies. And then you had a snack later. And then you had another cup of tea with cookies. And then you ate one meal. And then you ate another snack with everybody else. And then another snack. And so like, it's sort of, people really don't see those things as calories.
Correct. Yeah. And you bring up an amazing point. The research shows this very clearly, that people who are they're overweight generally, they statistically underestimate how many calories they're eating, and people who are underweight and struggle to gain weight statistically overestimate how much they're eating. And I like to use this example because oftentimes we all have at least like one skinny friend in our life who swears up and down they're trying to gain weight.
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, I'm eating so much, I'm eating so much, I'm eating so much." And you go out to eat with them and maybe they get, I don't know, a meatball sub, but they only have like 1 or 2 bites.
Yeah.
And it's in their mind, they're like, well, I had a meatball sub, but they didn't actually track how much they ate. And so they didn't actually eat the whole thing. And oftentimes they're also moving a lot more. Yeah. Whereas the people who are generally more overweight and struggle to lose weight, they're underestimating how much they're eating, which is why even if you don't want to track your calories, which I think is worthwhile for everyone to do for at least 72 hours, just write everything you eat down, because you will forget it. In the fitness community, there's something that we call LBTs, licks, bites, and tastes. Things that, and I know especially mothers will understand this, where like you have kids and like they might not have finished all the chicken nuggets. So you have like a chicken nugget here, you have a couple fries here, and you don't realize that can add up to easily hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calories throughout the day. So if you think that, I don't know, you're hitting 1,700, but then you don't track the LBTs, you could easily be over 2,000 for the day, which could at the very least be stalling your progress.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people mistracking or not really understanding how much they're eating.
Yeah, especially like the frappuccinos at Starbucks.
Oh my gosh.
And everyone thinks it's just a coffee, but it's not a coffee. Correct. Unless it's black coffee.
That's exactly right. And for whatever it's worth, like if you like the essentially cheesecake in a cup, go for it, but it's a lot of calories in there.
Yeah.
Whereas black coffee, it's essentially 0 calories. There may be 10, but the thermogenic effect might just increase it. So it actually or decrease the calories net. But overall, like if you want to have coffee with cream in it or coffee with sugar in it, go for it. Just track the calories.
Yeah.
And it's totally fine. I'm not in the business of demonizing a certain food. I don't want someone to feel guilty for having it, but let's just be realistic, call a spade a spade. And if you're going to have a 2,100 calorie drink every morning, it's probably going to be way more difficult to lose weight.
Yeah, yeah. And I can just hear the people groaning and saying, I never want to track a calorie in my life.
Yes.
So what do you tell those people? Like, say, is there another way? Like, people sometimes use a fist of this, use a half a plate of this, but that's still a little bit subjective because a plate could be different sizes,
correct,
right? So what do you tell people?
So the first thing I'll say is let's discuss not wanting to do it. And I talk to a lot of people with children. So whether you have a child or not, you'll understand this. But if your child came home from school and said, "Oh, I really don't want to do my homework," you'd say, "Tough shit, Charlie. Do your fucking homework." Like, you have to do your homework.
Right.
If you want to graduate, if you want to X, Y, and Z, you have to do it. "Oh, I don't want to clean my room." Tough shit. Go clean your room. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have to do stuff that we don't want to do, especially if you have a goal that you want to achieve. And if your goal is to lose fat sustainably and healthily, it's going to help you tremendously for, again, just 72 hours, track your calories. I remember the first time I actually weighed a portion of peanut butter my soul died.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what the, it's tiny. And I was using
and it's so many calories.
It's so many calories. It's depressing. It's truly depressing. And it's one of those things where like I'll still have PB&J, but the servings I was using before, one PB&J was easily over 1,000 calories, and it didn't fill me up very much. And I thought that it was only a couple hundred. So just tracking for 72 hours will open your eyes to where your portions are. One thing for me is I don't track my calories every day now. I did for many years, and I don't need to at this point because I can look at a plate of food and guess within 50 to 100 calories where it is. If I get to a point throughout the year where I'm like, oh, you know what? Like I put on a couple pounds, I'll gladly track my calories for a few weeks just to get myself back on track. And every time I do it, I'm like, oh yeah, my portions were way too high, or way too big. So I think at the very least, just do it. And what you'll probably find is if you do it for a week, it takes the most amount of time the first few days you do it because it's something you've never done before. It's a new skill. Give it a shot. But then after a week, especially if you're not eating something new every day, all day, like you just get in the habit of having the same things regularly and it's chick-chock. It happens no problem. But the one group of people that I'm very much like, you know what, let's not track calories is those who've had disordered eating in the past, whether it's anorexia, bulimia, orthorexia nervosa. If someone's had disordered eating habits in the past, it's not that they can't ever count in the future, but right now, while they're either recovering or they don't feel like they've fully recovered in general, let's just hold off. And for that, I have something I call my 3 plate and 2 snack method. It's exactly what it sounds like. You have 3 meals a day. Each meal sits on 1 plate and 2 snacks. And each snack will somewhere to your palm to your hand size. Generally, like women often have smaller hands than men, so I'll be like, just do your whole hand. And for men, I'll be like, just do your palm. Generally, snacks, I'd like to be either a fruit and or a protein. So it could be Greek yogurt, could be apple, could be cottage cheese, could be banana. And someone's like, banana, that doesn't fit in my hand. It's a fucking banana. You're fine. Right? It's like, don't get so wrapped up. It's just 1 piece of fruit, a little bit of protein. It's a great snack. And the meal fits on 1 plate. I'd like to have some protein on that plate. I'd like to have some vegetables on that plate. Be like, but what about breakfast? What if I don't have vegetables? Fine. Then don't have vegetables in that breakfast. Or if you want, make an omelet and put vegetables in it. But like, it's just 1 plate. That's the main rule. So 3 plates, 2 snacks. It's very difficult to overeat if you're following that methodology.
Yeah, unless your plates are huge.
If you have like a lunch tray size plate, then it's a problem. The other issue is when they get like a thimble size plate, and these are people who struggle with disordered eating. They're like, okay, I'll have a plate, but it's like a tea saucer type plate. It's like, no, like a regular plate. It's not a lunch tray. It's not a tea saucer or a thimble. Regular plate.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are like, what diameter should it be? Like, for fuck's sake, just get a plate. Like, stop overthinking it.
Right. So you've done these really cool challenges where you've tried the carnivore diet for a month. You've tried eating a Big Mac every day for a month. You've done, what's the other one?
The glucose experiment.
Yeah, the blood. That was a good one.
I thought you would like that one.
Yes. So you're basically showing people that whatever diet you're doing, if you want to eat your favorite food, if you want to eat something that spikes your blood sugar, you can still lose weight. When was the last time a doctor spent an hour with you and truly focused on your goals? And when was the last time you left feeling like you really understood what was going on with your body and had a clear plan of what was going to happen next? At my practice, Rena Malik, MD, I aim to do just that. I specialize in sexual dysfunction, bladder health, hormone health, and pelvic pain for all people. And I want to revolutionize how we take care of patients. I want to really get to know each and every one of you. That's why at my practice, when you come to see me, I'm 100% present with you for an entire hour. And after you leave, if you forgot to ask me something or need clarification on something we talked about, don't worry. I'll respond to your issues and questions quickly through our secure messaging portal without any additional costs. Just go to www.renamalikmd.com/appointments and schedule your visit today. We see patients in Irvine and Beverly Hills, California, and virtually for patients from California, Florida, Illinois, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. If you aren't located in these states, consider making an educational visit where we can talk about your conditions generally, but I can't diagnose or treat you. I can't wait to see you. What is the most pushback you got from one of these diets? When you tried one of these, what did you get the most pushback from people from, and why?
So it's a great question. The Big Mac challenge that was the first public challenge I ever did, and I had wanted to do it for a long time. And basically, I ate 1 Big Mac a day every day, but that wasn't all I ate. I just had to include a Big Mac a day every day. I ate other things as well. But Super Size Me is one of the most popular documentaries ever made. To my knowledge, they're still showing it in schools to kids growing up. And I have no data to support this, but if I were to guess which piece or which food documentary has been the largest contributor to disordered eating habits, Super Size Me is, I think, number one, because it's also inspired other documentaries off the back of it. And there's so much about what he did in that documentary that was cherry-picked and that was misleading and not good science. I mean, even, for example, so he was required to eat McDonald's 3 times a day, every day, I think the dumbest thing, which is literally Supersize Me, the name of it, is if they asked him if he wanted to supersize it, he had to say yes.
Yeah.
Which is like, you're an adult. You could say, yeah, you know what, I'd rather not supersize my meal. I'll just have the regular. And he also, every time he would get like the huge trash bin size of filled regular sodas, like he could have gotten water. He didn't have to get regular. He could have gotten diet soda. He didn't have to get the biggest meals, but he did. And even, I think it was on the second or third day, he was required to finish every meal, which is, if you're full, you don't have to finish your food.
Yeah.
And he ate so much that he actually threw up because he wasn't hungry anymore. It's like, this isn't real life. And he said the whole purpose was to showcase the average American diet. The average American is not eating at McDonald's 3 times a day, and definitely not supersizing it every single time and eating to the point of throwing up. So it was very, very, very manipulative in how it was framed. And it created this whole idea that having McDonald's was poisonous and going to kill you and blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to show people, not that go to McDonald's every day, but God forbid you have McDonald's once in a while. It's not a big deal. And most people don't realize this, but if we look at the top 2 contributors of that leading to death in terms of mental illness, it's actually disordered eating is in the top 2. People think like depression and committing suicide, but death as a result of a mental illness is often disordered eating is in the top 2 in the country, which is absolutely wild, and people don't talk about it. So that's why I'm very passionate about helping people heal their relationship with food, because it can lead to absolutely horrific consequences in the long run.
Yeah.
So I ate 1 Big Mac a day, every single day, and I was able to lose like 7 pounds in 30 days. Now, again, it's not to get people to eat more fast food. I'm not saying fast food is healthy. I'm not saying it's the pinnacle of nutrition. I'm just saying if you're a mother and you're driving your kids around and they're screaming and they haven't eaten in a while and you're going by McDonald's, don't feel guilty for having McDonald's. You're not poisoning them. You're not poisoning yourself. It's okay. If it's your kid's birthday party and you're going to they want you to have a slice of pizza with them, I actually think it's worse for you and for your child's health to say, no, I'm not going to eat that, than to just enjoy it guilt-free and then get right back on track with your normal diet.
Yeah.
So when I did the Big Mac challenge, it was my first challenge I ever did publicly, and people were very upset the first 2 weeks because they jumped to conclusions. They thought that I was saying McDonald's is healthy and you should be eating more McDonald's, when in reality I was just trying to say, if you end up having something like this, what's going to cause more damage is your negative relationship with it, the over-exercising as a result of it, you telling your kids that it's poison. Like, that's going to cause way more damage mentally, physically, emotionally than just having it and moving on and getting back on track.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really important. And did you track your calories during that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because 7 pounds in a month is a lot.
It is. And
just a preface for people, that's a lot.
It's too fast. Unless you're starting from a very high body fat, then that would be okay.
Yeah.
But when I started it, I actually started to lose weight at a more sustainable rate, about 0.5 pound to a pound a week. And I realized if I didn't lose probably at least 5 pounds, there were going to be a fair amount of people who said, this doesn't work. Like that could have been a weight fluctuation. Like there's so many. So I deliberately was in a larger caloric deficit just to stimulate more weight loss so that I could show people that no, it's real. Like this wasn't just a weight fluctuation.
Were you more hungry during that time?
Yeah. Way hungry and more tired.
Yeah.
I'm a small dude. I'm 5'4" on a good day. Doctor the other day said I'm 5'3.5". I was like, damn it. But like,
don't take that away from me.
I'm like 5'4" on a good day. I'm like 145 pounds, 150 pounds. So the amount of calories that I can eat is very low compared to someone who's 6 foot, 200 pounds. So my calories were pretty low. I was hungry. I was tired because a Big Mac is like 540 calories. That was about a third of my calories for the day.
Yeah.
And a Big Mac is gone in 4 bites. It's not filling.
Yeah.
So, and this is where we get to the discussion of, yes, like all calories are created equal, but all calories will not fill you up the same in terms of, you get 100 calories from an apple and 100 calories from a Big Mac, right? It's like 100 calories from a Big Mac is about a bite. 100 calories from an apple is the whole apple.
Yeah.
So you'll get more full from an apple than you will from a donut or from a Big Mac. But either way, like it's still 100 calories.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk a lot about being consistent. And I think what people struggle with is absolutely staying consistent. Everyone gets that, first New Year's, like, I'm going to go to the gym, and January sucks for going to the gym because none of your machines are available. But one, why do people give up? And 2, what can you do to maintain consistency? What does consistency look like for someone who just wants to live a healthy life?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think there are a number of reasons why people give up. The first reason is because they have unrealistic expectations of what progress looks like. The number of times someone has said, oh, like, I've only lost 8 pounds this month. And I'm like, are you stupid? Like, why did you put the word only in there? I've only lost 6 pounds this month. I've only lost 4 pounds this month. I've only lost 2 pounds this month. Like, what does that mean? Like, that's amazing. If you lost 2 pounds a month, every month, that's 24 pounds by the end of the year, and probably a pretty sustainable way to do it.
Yeah.
People have this weird idea that faster is inherently better, which I know you talk a lot about sex. Like, I don't think faster is inherently better for many things. It's not. When you create this idea that it's bad progress, then it's easy to be like, well, it's not working, and they just quit.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The other major issue is in January, for example, they're like, okay, well, I'm going to work out 7 days a week, and I'm never going to have another carbohydrate again, and I'm going to be perfect, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, number one, it's completely unsustainable. So then as soon as they inevitably can no longer do it, they feel like they're a failure.
Yeah.
And so when they feel like failure, they're like, screw it.
Yeah.
It's like, if you started with something more sustainable from the beginning, then you wouldn't have quit, and you wouldn't have had this idea of failure. But people think that they need to be perfect. They think that they need to exercise 7 days a week. They think that, only 3 days a week is enough. Yeah, that's amazing. 3 days a week is fantastic. But you asked, what does consistent look like? I very much like the Pareto principle, 80-20. But the way that I look at it and what I do with my clients is I have a calendar. And if I look at the month, let's say we're doing the 80-20. You have 30, 31 days in a month. To be 80% consistent, that's 24 to 26 days that month. So we'll call it 25, right? So the way I track it from a fat loss perspective is, did you hit your calories? Did you hit your protein? Did you hit your fiber? And did you get your exercise in? Right? So if you don't have exercise plan that day, then just take it out. But those are the 4 major things: calories, protein, fiber, exercise. If you hit all of those that day, check mark. You're good. If you didn't hit it, X. That's it. At the end of the month, if you don't have at least 24, 25 check marks, then you were less than 80% consistent. Now, the cool part about this is I have many clients who they were, quote unquote, only 68% consistent, but they lost 2 pounds that month. And so for me, it's like you made progress, and you got a D plus in terms of your consistency, right? 68 is a D plus.
Yeah.
I'd say that's pretty damn good. But if you look at someone who lost 4 pounds that month and they were 88% consistent, they got a B plus, you can't compare your progress to them because you got a D plus and they got a B plus. So number one, comparing yourself against someone else is stupid anyway.
It's giving me anxiety as a physician who's like, I got to get an A and everything.
Yeah, it's for me, I like using that just because when you relate it to a grade, it can show you like, oh, well, I don't deserve to be upset about my progress because I wasn't as consistent as I thought I was. So I like that way of tracking. And so okay, this is what I need to hit, and I either hit it or I didn't. And people are like, well, what if I only go over my calories by 100? You went over. Yeah. That's just like, and I'm not saying it's bad. You didn't fail life, but you went over. And like, because if you start being like, well, I was basically consistent, but I only went over by 100, at what point is it no longer consistent? Which is what you have to be very factual about it, objective. And don't, just because you go over doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean you failed everything. It just means you went over that day. Be honest about it. Put in an X, move on. That's it. And the more honest and objective you can be, the easier and more successful it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really great advice. You mentioned carbs.
Yeah.
Before we get into the carbs, I do want to say, like, I've started a fitness plan, and I've been watching on, like, some of the coaching clients have been posting their progress. And I will tell you, like, the one thing is, don't ever compare yourself to somebody else. Like, you don't know where they started. You don't know how perfect they are. And, you might see like they lost like 20 pounds in 3 months, and that's like crazy, but they were maybe 40 pounds overweight, right?
Correct.
And so, like, I think it's just like realizing that faster is not better.
Correct.
And that you got to work on you. And it's hard because we're in social media world. Like, there's so much, like, so many great pictures of transformations, but are they sustaining it? Are they,
exactly,
are they, like, a year from that date where that picture was posted, are they still fit?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I hate The Biggest Loser. Mm-hmm. If you keep up with the people who did The Biggest Loser,
they all gain it back, right?
And it's so terrible because Could you imagine going on national television and being put in this outrageous scenario, losing all this weight, and everyone knows you because you lost all this weight, and then you go back home, and now the cameras are off you and no one's paying attention, but people in your town are all watching you, and they're slowly watching you gain all this weight back. And this whole reason you're now famous is because you lost weight, but now you've gained it all back. The pressure and the negative self-talk that would come from that, I couldn't really imagine. It would be, I think, very, very difficult to emotionally deal with. And so when you see people posting these pictures, never mind the drugs that many people are taking, never mind the Photoshop, never mind that. Let's just assume everyone's honest and straightforward and they actually made that transformation. You don't know if they're going to be able to sustain it. And It's so funny. What I've seen is people are most likely to talk very highly of a certain diet or protocol within the first week of starting it. Which is like, you've been doing it for a week. Why the hell? Like, oh, it's the best thing you've ever done. I feel amazing. You started it within a week. Shut up. Like, talk to me in 5 years when you've been doing it for a long time and you still have maintained the progress. That for me, and that's like the gold standard of research, is looking at sustaining it over at least a 5-year window. And for me, that's what I'll look at. And listen, I hesitate to say never compare yourself to people, because there's actually a great deal of research around self-efficacy, which is a fancy way of saying like your self-confidence, your belief in your ability to accomplish a given task. Mm-hmm. And one of the leading researchers around self-efficacy, his name is Albert Bandura. He highlighted ways to increase someone's self-efficacy. And there's no question, both in the data and also in my own personal experience with coaching, that people who have a high level of self-efficacy are infinitely more likely to actually succeed with their goals, which makes sense. If you believe you can do it, then you'll do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. If you don't believe you can do it, then why would you bother taking the time and the money and doing everything to make it happen? And one of the ways that you can increase self-efficacy is through something called social modeling, where if you see someone else who did it and maybe you relate to that person, then, oh, you know what? If they did it, I can do it too. And so I think if you start seeing people's transformations, rather than looking at it as like, well, why isn't it working for me? Or why are they better than I am? Reframing it in terms of, if they did it, then I can too. And if you view it from that perspective, you might be able to use other people's success as a way to motivate yourself to be more consistent and say, as long as I don't quit, it will work. I just need to be patient.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key. Don't quit.
Yes, that's it.
Don't quit. So yeah, carbs. Let's talk about it.
I love them.
I love carbs too. And I went through a phase where I felt like carbs were the devil. And
the worst.
It's the worst. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with carbohydrates at all. And sort of joking, but also serious, I don't know anyone who's on a low carb diet that's actually happy. Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, and people will say this, they're like, well, carbs are not essential for life. It's like, if you want to go down that route, let's talk about it. You know what else isn't essential for life is air conditioning. You know what else isn't essential for life is having a car, sleeping on a mattress. These things aren't essential for life, but you're very glad that you have them.
Yeah.
So the essential argument is stupid and ignorant. And not to mention having a mattress, having air conditioning, all these things, they can increase the quality of your life and also increase the longevity of your life, not just your lifespan, but your health span. Mm-hmm. And so carbohydrates, as long as they're not eaten in excess, and it's impossible to eat them in excess as long as your calories are in check, which is great. You don't need to worry about counting your carbs. As long as your calories are in check, it's impossible to overeat. I think that when people, and especially women, but in general, when you overly reduce carbohydrates, your quality of life goes down. It's very difficult to stay consistent. It's very difficult to actually think straight oftentimes. I will say there are some people, very small percentage, who either they need to have a lower carb diet or no carb diet. Oftentimes those who struggle with epilepsy can do better on a lower carb diet. That's actually what the ketogenic diet was essentially made for those struggling with epilepsy. But I know people who struggle with certain gut issues, or they have certain intolerances. They might feel better on a lower carb diet, but everyone I ever talk to who has to be on a low carb diet for medical reasons, they all wish they could eat more carbs. And especially, like, I don't know any higher level athlete, not one, and I've worked with many professional athletes, I don't know one who has a low carb diet.
Yeah. How would that affect performance?
Significantly.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the things I noticed when I did the carnivore diet, which was my least favorite one by far. I see a lot of people who talk about things, and in this day and age, you can always pull up a study, go on PubMed. You can even use AI now to say, hey, find me a study proving this, and you'll find a peer-reviewed studies saying whatever you want. So for me, I like to actually try things just so I can say like, listen, I gave this a shot. Let me give you my objective opinion. So I tried the carnivore diet just to show people what actually happened. Blood pressure shot through the roof. Candidly, on such literally a no fiber diet, my diarrhea was the worst I've ever had. It felt like Satan himself was coming out of my asshole every day. It was terrible. But my performance in the gym suffered immensely. And that's where I get so much of my happiness, is going to the gym and working out. I love it. And my energy tanked, my strength tanked, my conditioning tanked, which someone who's taken a nutrition 101 class understands that carbohydrates are the preferred energy fuel source for your body. So it's like, obviously that makes sense, but it can not only harm your performance, but for the average everyday person who struggles with even going to the gym in the first place, it's going to make it harder to want to go to the gym. When you're tired and lethargic, you don't want to go. Yeah. It's my clients, like, I deliberately will have them eat more carbs the day before they work out because I want them excited to go to the gym and have that energy to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of prepping for the gym, so tell me about pre-workouts. Like, should you be working out fasted, cardio fasted, strength training fasted? Is there value to any of that?
There's value to anything and everything depending on the person and their goals and their priorities. Considering most people, especially people who follow me, want fat loss, I always take it from that perspective. That's the view, the angle I'm coming from, is making sure that fat loss is included. Not because everyone needs it, but because a lot of people are interested in it. In terms of what you should do around your workout, I'll start with like a pre-workout supplement. The first thing to understand is the word supplement. It is inherently supplementary to everything else. It is not necessary at all. My favorite pre-workout supplement is just coffee. It's essentially the exact same benefits in terms of, like, most pre-workouts are a lot of caffeine, and you can get caffeine from coffee. They have other things in as well, beta-alanine and creatine and blah, blah, blah. But for me, little cup of coffee and I'm good to go. One of the reasons I don't like pre-workout most of the time, pre-workout supplements, is because if you always take it and then, I don't know, you're traveling or you run out, or maybe your financial situation changes and you can't afford it because they're pretty expensive. It's like, do you think you can only get a successful workout if you have it? I don't like that mental side of it. I don't want to have to rely on anything except myself getting into the gym. The other thing is, like, they can really hype you up. And so I was a competitive powerlifter for many years. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from Louis Simmons, who was my coach, he was like, if you have to be really hyped up to get your workout in, then there will be times when you're not as hyped up that, like, you're not going to want to, and you're not going to perform as well. I would rather you just get used to going to the gym, maybe not feeling super, super, super buzzed, and more just being like, I don't need to have an insane workout, but I'm going to get it in today, even if I'm not super hyped up. And that, I think, is a good habit to get into.
Yeah, it definitely is.
In terms of food, I like to sandwich my workouts with carbs and protein. So, and I'll talk about, let's say you work out early in the morning. I'll talk about that in a second. But let's say you work out anytime from, I don't know, 9 a.m. until whatever, 10 p.m., whatever it is. Carbs and protein before, about like within 2 hours before and within 2 hours after. There's no such thing as an anabolic window. You need to get protein in like immediately before or immediately after. Most important is total calories and total protein by the end of the day. That's the most important, especially if you're an average individual. If you're an elite bodybuilder or really an elite physique competitor, then it's fine if you want to focus on the minutia and you want to like get a little bit more specific with it. For the 99% of people who are not a physique competitor and you just want to be stronger and healthier and lose fat, calories, protein by the end of the day is way more important than anything around timing. Let's say you work out at like 4 a.m. I would try and have a fair amount of protein and carbs the night before at dinner. And then within 2 hours of after your training, try and get protein and carbs in. If I'm working out early in the morning, I don't like to eat a lot beforehand because I don't want to eat at 3 in the morning. I'm not awake enough to eat. Yeah. So like I'll eat big dinner the night before, and then I'll eat about 2 hours after I work out, or within that 2 hour time frame. And that's it. Don't overthink it.
What do you tell people in terms of how to stay motivated? Like, what techniques do you offer your clients? One is like the beginning. Sometimes people have a little more motivation because they're already coming to you, right? But they're maybe 3 to 4 weeks, months in, and they're either seeing a plateau or perceiving a plateau, and they're like, I'm not seeing the results I want to, or it's still just 2 pounds a month, which I know, I know you have a thing with that because 2 pounds is great. But they're sort of getting frustrated and saying like, is it worth it?
The way that I look at it is, for me, it always helps to understand the science of it. And so the science of motivation is always very interesting to me. And so when I'm looking at someone who's struggling with motivation, I always like to explain this. When people think about motivation, they think first you get motivated, right? So they think, to get motivated, first you just lightning strikes motivation.
Yeah.
Then from that motivation, you take action. Then with those actions come results. And with those results come more motivation. It's not how it works. Motivation is actually, it's a later step. So first, you have to take action.
Yeah.
Even when you're not motivated to do it. The first step is action, which I think if you were talking to a child or a friend or someone you're trying to mentor, you'd always give that advice. But for yourself, you're just like, I'm not motivated, so I'm not going to do it. That's not how it works. So you have to understand action comes first. From action comes a result. From those results come more motivation, in which you take more action. The cool thing about this is, whenever I talk about this, people think action has to be a big thing. Like, I don't know, like working out 4, 5, 6 times a week or doing something crazy. Action can be super small. Action can be going for a 5-minute walk. And I like this example because the research around benefits of walking is absolutely wild. And people really underestimate it. But if you go on a 5-minute walk, no one has ever gone on a 5-minute walk and felt worse than before.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. You always will feel better, even if it's like in the rain. Oftentimes going out for a walk in the rain, you're like, that was awesome. It was whatever it is. Like going on a walk is always a great form of action. And not to mention 5 minutes will turn to 10 minutes, 10 minutes will turn to 20 minutes. And then you go out, you feel better. I went on a walk, amazing. You know what? Maybe instead of having this, I'm going to go have an apple. I'm going to make sure I drink a little bit more water. And now all of a sudden you have these behaviors that are happening because you took that action. And then, so the result of feeling better and being more proud of yourself will then lead to more motivation, more action. And the other aspect is when people think of results, they think like 10 pounds down. It's like, that's going to take a while. Let's look at the short-term results, like feeling better, feeling more proud of yourself. In therapy and in psychology, they use something called consequential thinking a lot, which is the idea of like, when you focus on what you want right now, it's very easy to not do what you should be doing, right? So you wake up 6 a.m. and you're in bed and you're comfortable and you don't want to go to the gym. If you think about that right now, then like you can go back to bed. You're way more comfortable. Everyone's more comfortable in bed than when they have to take off the sheets and put their feet on the floor. But if instead of thinking about what you want right now, you think about how you're going to feel later in the day, once the thing is over, when you're lying back down that night, when you look back at your day, it's much easier to take the action that you need to do. So I'm not saying it works 100% of the time, but even if it only works 50% of the time, like you just improved by a huge margin. And if people just, even if, let's say 2 days, you have a 4-day week workout plan that you're doing 0 right now. And all of a sudden you start going 2 days a week. That's a big fucking deal. And it makes a huge difference in your overall health and longevity. So consequentially thinking about what's going to happen later in the day and specifically how you'll feel once that thing is over is a very important tactic that you can use.
It's that delayed gratification.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And it's a muscle. You got to keep practicing it, right?
Correct.
Because I think certainly people in medicine, we are very used to delayed gratification because we dedicate years to our training and then to first to medical school, then to training, and then maybe a fellowship before we're finally on our own practicing medicine. But even then, I think we're probably really bad at delaying other things.
And with the medical community, y'all are so focused on other people that you really tend to neglect. And I'm saying you proverbially, not to you individually, but like you neglect yourselves. And I don't know the nuance of the medical system and the stress that they put you under and the politics of it. I don't know that stuff. I have a lot of clients, especially nurses, who just have brutal schedules. It's sad that our frontline healthcare workers, the people who are supposed to be helping us improve our health, often are not given a schedule or an opportunity to really focus on themselves as much. And I've also noticed that a lot of people in the medical community feel guilty for focusing on themselves, similar to how mothers will often feel guilty for taking time for themselves. But I'm sure you've heard it a million times. You can't pour from an empty cup. And if your health ends up taking a decline because you're not focusing on yourself, then you can't help your patients, your clients, any of that. So
yeah, it's a huge, I mean, I'm sure it's in other fields too, but there's been a little bit, at least interest in wellness and medicine. I don't know that it's complete positive yet, but I think certainly the younger generation is doing a better job of prioritizing themselves, which is great. I see it all the time, and not just in medicine, but in patients and people where they're so busy giving to others, and they're like, I got to take care of my parents, I got to take care of my kids, I got to take care of my job, or I just financially I'm strapped and I'm like working really hard, and and like I can't even, I don't even know where to start. So let's talk about that person, right? Let's talk about that person who doesn't have access to a gym, doesn't have money to go to a gym. What can they do at home? Say their goals are fat loss and strength. What can they do? Can they get the same results at home, and what can they do?
It was all great until you said the same results. So we'll start as though you didn't say that, and then we'll go to this, because the same is really dependent on where the starting point is and what they want to achieve. And so I'm going to start with someone who has a lot of weight to lose, is pretty unhealthy. Blood work might not be good, high blood pressure, maybe they've got at least 50, 75, 100 plus pounds to lose. You don't need to go to a gym. You don't need to make huge life changes whatsoever to see amazing results. Again, walking is the single most underrated, highly effective, easily accessible exercise that anyone can do, assuming you can walk. And if you can't walk, whether it's cycling, hand cycling, there are many things you can do, but it's movement. Just for the vast majority of people, walking is the most underrated, highly effective form of exercise, period. And the research supports this, and even like anecdotal data supports this, which is obvious. But if we look at the longest living societies in the world, they walk the most. And there's other things as well. Often they have lower stress, but like what's funny is people focus so much on nutrition, and it's very important. But if we look at the longest living societies in the world, we can look at Japan, we can look at Italy, we can look at Switzerland, these are all in the top 10 longest living populations in the world. Vastly different diets. But their exercise, their walking is among the most, which Greece is another one. They walk a lot. Now, the other thing that is you have to talk about is the stress. They have overall relatively low stress, especially compared to some place like the United States. And I think that has a lot to do with the culture of working and grinding and da-da-da-da-da. And they're much more family-focused, community-focused, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, walking is the most important. And again, I'm a powerlifter, wrestler, jiu-jitsu, athlete. Like, I love exercise and strength training and lifting, and my clients do as well. But if I'm talking about health, it's not about what I love to do. It's about data-wise, what is the best exercise you can do? And it's walking, bar none. And high-intensity interval training, like sprinting, is it great? Yeah, it has benefits. Not as much as walking for many reasons. Because, number one, you can walk way more than you can do HIIT. You can walk way more with way less stress on your body. Like, you can't do HIIT for an hour. And if someone's like, yes, you can, then you're not doing HIIT properly. If you're doing HIIT properly, 8, 10, 12 minutes max, you're not doing HIIT for an hour straight. You can walk for hours and hours and hours. Zone 2 cardio, this lower intensity cardio, is the best thing that you can do for your health long term from an exercise perspective. Not from a strength, but from a fat loss and overall health. Strength, now we get into something different. And you can do strength training with just your body weight. It's more difficult. It also depends where you're starting. If you have someone who's got 100 pounds to lose and they haven't strength trained before, sometimes for them just standing up out of a chair is strength training. So doing that 10 times is like, that's their strength training. Most people aren't there and they can do a little bit more, but you don't need a whole gym full of equipment to strength train, but it does help. It gives you more tools in your toolbox. I don't care if it's dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, bands, cables, machines. They're all great, and they're all just another tool in your toolbox. So I would like to see people have some access to some extra weight. I think that's when you start saying, like, if you're training at home and you're already relatively healthy, you don't have 200 pounds to lose, but maybe in that like 5 to 50 pound range, you're going to get better results by lifting weights and progressively heavier weights. And I know you've spoken to people before, the importance of progressive overload, and that is important. When you start adding strength training to the mix, you will get better results with progressive overload, which means that having more access to weights will be very beneficial. In terms of improving your health by 80%, walking and fat loss and getting your nutrition in check is going to be the vast majority of it. The final 20%, strength training, getting under some load, lifting progressively heavier weights, having access to that equipment is very beneficial.
So say someone's new to the gym. They walk into the gym, they've got hundreds of exercises they can do.
Yep.
You had to tell the average person 7 exercises they could do that would be beneficial for strength training as a full body workout. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so I'm going to assume walking doesn't count. That's number one anyway.
Yeah.
You can do it anywhere. What I'll say is instead of necessarily an exercise, I'll give exercises, but first I just like to think about movements. So a lot of people think about exercises in terms of muscle groups, and this is more of a traditional bodybuilding way of thinking about it. Not wrong, but I'm assuming we're not talking to bodybuilders on this podcast. We're talking to everyday people who just want to be healthier. I like to think about it in terms of movements. And when you focus on these movements, the actual specific exercise doesn't really matter as much as making sure you're just doing the movement, right? So we have upper body, we have pulling movements, right? So a pulling movement could be a dumbbell row. That's a horizontal pulling movement. You could do a vertical pulling movement like a chin up or a lat pull down. These are both great pulling exercises. We have other pulling exercises that are a little bit less compound. So when I say compound, I mean they use a lot of muscle groups. So a row, it doesn't just use your back, like your lats and your rhomboids. It also will use your biceps. Same thing with a lat pull down, it uses your biceps and your lats, your rhomboids. Whereas a dumbbell curl, it's still pulling, but it's just your bicep.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But anything pulling is fantastic. And I think generally speaking, more people need to do more pulling. They're sitting down like Quasimodo, shoulders hunched forward, chicken neck out. Like we need to do more pulling to strengthen our back.
Now.
Exactly. People wonder, anytime we talk about posture, I guarantee everyone watching just did this. They sat right up, right? Even if they're walking, they just postured up and they wonder, how do I make this stick? Well, number one is you can't just have to think about it all the time. You have to strengthen it there because when you strengthen the muscles there, that's what's going to help it stay there naturally. So pulling is number one, pushing is another one, and that could be a push-up. It could be a dumbbell bench press. It could be an overhead press. These are all pushing exercises, and they work your chest, your shoulders, your triceps. We could also look at something like a tricep press down. That's more of an isolation movement, but still it's a pushing exercise. So those are two of the movement patterns. We also have lower body pushing, which would be like a squat or a lunge. You're like, think about pushing the floor away from you. It's often more knee dominant. Train your quads and your glutes. And you have lower body pulling, which is more like a deadlift or Romanian deadlift, kettlebell swings, cable pull throughs, hamstring curls. These are our pulling exercises. So you have your upper body push, upper body pull, lower body push, lower body pull. Then we could have other exercise or other movements which are more maybe core focused, like core rotational training. You could also have more static, which would be like a plank, for example, but a rotation would be like a Russian twist or a cable core rotation. We have other things like carries. I think carries are a really good one. Even like a farmer's walk. Pick up a dumbbell and walk, or pick up one dumbbell in each hand and walk, and should be heavy. But like you walk, and I mean, it doesn't really get much more functional than that, right? But these are about 6 to 7 different movement patterns. And as long as I think if people just from listening to this, they stop searching for specific exercises, it's like, oh, I just want to do this exercise or that exercise, or they want to look for the best exercise. Start going based off of movement, and you can start to design a really good program. You can design a program that has a little bit more balance to it. Some pulling, some pushing, some twisting, some carrying, and all of a sudden, like, you've got more balance to your program, and then you can sort of pick and choose whichever exercise you want as long as you hit all of those movement patterns.
So is there should you do push, pull, push, pull? Is it okay if you do push, push, pull, pull? Like, is there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as long as it's balanced in the big scheme of things?
So it's a great question. So when I'm organizing a weekly plan, I prefer either a 3 or a 4 day a week protocol. I'll give a 2 day a week protocol as well because it's fantastic for beginners. But for the 3 day a week, I like a push, pull, legs split. We'll say Monday is push. So it'd be upper body pushing. And then we'll say Wednesday is your pull, so upper body pulling movements, and then Friday would be all legs. And you get that done. So 3 day week, it's what I'm following right now. It's a super effective split, and it also allows you a little bit more time in the week to do other things as well. The 4 day week is more of an upper lower split. So you would on we'll say Monday you do lower body, on Wednesday you do upper body, Friday lower body, and Saturday upper body. And so on your upper body day you do pushing and pulling. And on your lower body day, you do pushing and pulling, but you split it by upper lower rather than necessarily just by movements. For the 2 day a week, you have two options. You could either do full body workouts. So essentially you do full body on both days. We'll say Monday and Thursday. I'm not a huge fan of that, just because when you're doing a full body workout, like you're going to be sore everywhere.
Yeah.
So usually what I like to do is I have a focus on that day. So sometimes I'll do like I'll do an upper lower split 2 times a week. So lower body one day, upper body the next day, or I'll just do like pushing and pulling on one day and the other day, and I'll repeat that week after week. And either one works great. And that would definitely be more for a beginner, someone who hates exercise, they hate working out, and they're just starting and they want to spend as little time as possible in the gym. I think 2 days a week would be a great start.
In terms of, I've heard this term and I want some clarity on it because I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah.
Periodization.
Yes.
What is it? Why is it important?
Periodization, it's a fancy way of saying organization. That's all it is. Or it's how you organize your training. If you really want to get deep in the weeds, there are many different books on periodization and training modules. There are different types of periodization. So you have linear periodization, you have undulating periodization, you have block periodization, you have conjugate periodization. And it's just a fancy way of saying how are you organizing your training. And that's all it means. And so there are different benefits to different types of periodization. Generally speaking, it's widely believed, and I very much believe and agree with this, that linear periodization is the best, especially for beginners. And what that means is it's how most people think of progressive overload, which is that you just essentially just consistently add weight as often as you can in this linear fashion. And you're taking advantage of what's called your newbie gains. You're just starting out, and it's the best time when you start strength training because every fucking week you're getting stronger and stronger and you're like, this is amazing. And eventually you'll hit a point where maybe you're adding weight literally every week. And then it goes to every 2 weeks. And then it goes to every 4 weeks. And then it will get to a point after a while where you're not adding weight every month, every 2 months, every 3 months. I mean, if you think about it like this, like if you added 10 pounds a month to your bench press, just 10 pounds a month, well, at the end of the year, that would be 120 pounds to your bench press. At the end of 2 years, that would be 240 pounds to your bench press. Most people can't bench press that period, never mind in 2 years.
Yeah.
So people have this idea that you're going to see linear progress forever. It's not how it works. It does make sense early on to sort of max out that linear progression because you're never going to get results like you will in the first 6 months of strength training. So linear periodization, where you just consistently add more weight as often as you can early on, is a very good strategy, especially if you have no pre-existing issues, no pain, no whatever. That's definitely the best way to go. As you progress and move towards intermediate to advanced, you have more intermediate to advanced models. My personal favorite is conjugate periodization, popularized by Louis Simmons. Basically, the main difference between conjugate and something like block, for example, block periodization used to be the most famous, and it still is very widely used, but it's where you have one block of time and you focus on essentially one thing. So maybe you have a block of 3 months just on your maximal strength, then a block just on building as much muscle as you can, and then a block just on building explosive power or just on conditioning, whatever it is. The issue with that model is when you just focus on one, you lose everything else. And so you spend so much time focusing on one, you build it up, and it's peaked, then you move to the next, and then you detrain that one and then build up another one.
Right.
Conjugate, it's very much my mentality when you hear it. It's you focus, you do a little bit of everything, so the results won't be as quick in terms of that one thing you want to focus on, but you sustain everything.
Yeah.
So I like conjugate because while you don't see as rapid progress, you do see sustained, consistent progress. And the way that Louis would always explain it is that you're always contest ready. No matter what, like any day of the week, I'm ready to go right now. And from a sustainability perspective, I think for everyone, it's the best because you're never overtraining on one individual thing and you're never losing something completely.
Yeah. I know that you hate burpees.
Yes.
Why?
So here's what I'll say. If you are training at home and you have no other equipment and you want to do burpees to get movement in, fine, no problem. My issue with burpees is, number one, as my good friend Ben Bruno says, it's an advanced exercise masquerading as a basic exercise, beginner exercise. It's not a beginner exercise. And I see beginners are being forced to do it all the time. It's actually a very high level exercise.
Yeah.
And people are... When you see people doing it, they're flopping all over the place. They're using terrible form. If we break it down, a burpee should be a good squat followed by a good push-up. But when you program them 50, 75, 100 at a time, technique breaks down, people get injured doing it, and you're not actually making progress. You're not getting stronger, you're not using good technique, and that's where I have the biggest issue. The other issue is that a lot of coaches, and this is what people who aren't coaches don't understand, they put a burpee in there when they don't know what else to do. A burpee is a filler. It's a placeholder. And they'll do it because it's going to make you tired. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think, oh, if I'm tired, my coach is good. Anybody can make you tired. Do 100 burpees. There you go. You're fucking tired.
Yeah.
Right? Go run around the mall. You're tired. Go whatever. It's not hard to make someone tired. It's difficult to make them better, to actually get real results. And a lot of people, they have this idea, like I've heard so many people say, oh, my coach is amazing. I throw up after I work out. My coach is amazing. I'm so sore. My coach is amazing. I feel dead. I'm like, why is that amazing? It's not hard to do any of that. Have you gotten stronger? Have you built more muscle? Have you lost body fat? Are your clothes fitting better? Like, are you lifting heavier weights? These are real progress markers. Soreness isn't hard. Do 100 burpees. You'll be fucking sore tomorrow. Doesn't make you better. And so burpees are an easy way for a coach to make it seem like you're doing something when in reality it's just a placeholder filler instead of doing something that's actually going to help you make progress. I would rather someone, instead of doing burpees, just do really good squats. Instead of doing 100 burpees, how about we do like 5 sets of 5 really good squats and then 5 sets of 5 really good push-ups. You got 25 of each, and we can actually focus on progressively overloading them, making them more of a strength exercise rather than just flopping around like a fish. Like, let's focus on making it really well done with good intent rather than trying to just get you tired for the sake of being tired.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Because I think there's a big misconception, like you said, that if you're not sweaty, you're not working hard enough.
Correct.
If you're not sore the next day, you're not working hard enough. And I think it was you who said, like, if you're not sore, that's okay. Because you still want to do things.
Correct.
Like, you still want to pick up my kids and, like, hug them and, like, be able to move around and do things the next day and not be, like, lying in bed like a lame duck, you know?
If you're so sore that it's preventing you from getting another workout in, you work too hard.
Yeah.
Your volume was out of control. Your intensity was out of control. You shouldn't be so sore that you can't work out. Soreness isn't a bad thing. It's not an illness. Like, it's normal. But you shouldn't be so sore that it's affecting your ability to live your daily life or get another workout in.
How do you determine your intensity? Like, how do you know when you've reached your max effort?
It's a wonderful question. And there are many ways to do it. There are ways that I would prescribe more for an advanced lifter, and there are ways that I would prescribe more for an average everyday person. For an advanced lifter, I won't go into too much detail, but there's actual use percentages. So you find your max on a given movement. You test it. There's a whole protocol for doing it. You figure out what your max is for that movement. And it's sort of an intense, difficult process. And then throughout your training, you have a percentage that you work off. So let's say you deadlifted, 400 pounds. Then like, okay, so we're going to work off that percentage. So we're going to do like 70% for 3 sets of 5 reps on week 1. Then we're going to do 73.5% for week 2. Then we're going to do 75% week 3. And you literally do it from a mathematical perspective, which there are pros and cons to it. And that's more for an advanced population. For the average everyday individual, I prefer something that's called RPE, rate of perceived exertion. It's a learning curve, but essentially it's on a 0 to 10 scale. And the way I think about it is like 10, you couldn't do another rep. Like 10 is like with a gun to your head, that was the last rep you could have done. And oftentimes a 10 means like your form started to break down a little bit. Like that was like your max effort. 9 reps, you might be able to get one more rep with a gun to your head, maybe. 8 is now where it's like maybe you had another rep, maybe 2 in there. And so you go down like that. And then generally, I like to have people between like a 6.5 to an 8, generally speaking. And it depends on the day. If they're feeling really good, maybe they're at an 8, 8.5, 9 on one day. But if they're feeling bad, maybe they got laid off their job, stress is really high, maybe they're at like a 6, 6.5, and that's totally fine. As long as you're in that range, that 6, 6.5 to like 8 range, your intensity is high enough.
And you're going to see progress.
You will see progress.
Even if it's a 6.
Correct.
Okay.
And
so you don't have to go to failure every time.
No, it's no. Failure is not bad, and occasionally going to failure is fine. But if you're going to failure every single time on every exercise, like it's a recipe for disaster.
You're going to hurt yourself.
Not even necessarily hurt, it's a higher risk.
Yeah.
For sure. But the strain mentally and emotionally of going to failure it's taxing on your central nervous system. Emotionally, like people think they go to if you are truly going to failure, it's a devastating workout. over and over. Like, it's devastating. So, and there are benefits to occasionally doing it. It's so funny. Like, people think that you have to go to failure. Talk to an elite athlete. Talk to an Olympian. Talk to a professional athlete. Ask them how often they train to true failure. And I guarantee you they will say very rarely. Like, definitely not every workout. And it's funny because these average everyday gym goers think that they have to be training to failure every time. It's like, why? Where the fuck did you come up with that? It's made up, and it's going to cause more harm than good. And I'm hesitant to say it's definitely going to cause injury just because we don't know definitively what is going to cause an injury, but it's way more likely. And my concern is you're more likely to burn out and not go to the gym at all if you think that you have to keep doing that. Like, if I'm having a bad day or I'm really tired, and in my mind I was like, I have to train to failure, I'm probably just not going to work out.
Yeah.
If I think it's just not going to make progress, it's like, listen, sometimes an RPE 8 might be one weight, and then the next week an RPE 6 might be that same weight, but then it could also be reversed. Going by RPE makes it less about the weight and more about how you're actually feeling that day, which is what I like about it. So you, for today, just be in that RPE. Maybe it'll be more weight than last week. Maybe it'll be less weight than last week. That's okay. That's normal. Just try and hit that range of RPE on a day to day.
Yeah. And I've personally noticed that it fluctuates with where I am in my cycle. So like if I'm ovulating, I might be able to lift more versus if I'm close to menstruation, I'm like, I can't do it. Like the same weight I'm going to struggle through that I wasn't able. And it also depends on where it is in the workout. So like if that machine was busy and I did something else, I'm going to come back and I'm going to struggle a little harder on that one.
Makes sense. I mean, starting with what you just said, like you just expended more energy. On a different exercise, you like physiologically you used energy, and then also just the mental side. People discount the mental side of lifting, like it's a huge component. So if you expend more energy and now it's later in the workout and you're a little bit more tired, it's going to be more difficult. The muscles will be more fatigued already. In terms of the menstrual cycle, this is a huge debate in the strength world right now. I know. Huge debate.
Well, especially with the menopause space, but yes.
And there's research saying both. Surprise, surprise. Some research saying that it does affect it, and some research saying it doesn't. And for me, it's like, you tell me. Like, if you've been strength training for this long and you've been, your cycle, your body, like, then let's listen to what you're telling me. And if for some women are like, no, it doesn't fucking matter, it's the same every time. Other women are like, no, I'm definitely feeling better and stronger here. I have some female clients who are powerlifters who they very much feel better at certain times of the month. So if they're going to compete in a powerlifting competition, we'll make sure it's not going to be during a certain time of the month, because it would suck if I scheduled it at a time that they feel the weakest. So it's very individual dependent.
I think that's in medicine too, right? We talk to patients and we give them the data that we have from studies and what we know and what the treatment options are. But like, what works for this person is not going to work for that person. And it may not be my cycle. It could be something completely different that like that month happened and I just happened to notice that it mirrored my cycle. But regardless, right? Like, it doesn't matter. That's how I'm feeling and that's fine.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's also, if it happens around the same time every month, there's a really good fucking chance that it's due to your cycle.
It's possible.
And like, just because the research might not show it yet doesn't mean that it's not true.
Right. It hasn't been debunked.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, not definitively by any means.
At all.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you said you hate burpees. Are there other exercises that are super popular that you think people shouldn't be doing?
This is something that I've really internally struggled with, because on one hand, I just want people to exercise. I just want them to move. That's the most important for me. And when I hate on an individual exercise, it's less about the person doing it and more about the coach prescribing it, who has no idea what the fuck they're prescribing it for. And for me, people ask, like, how do you know if a coach is a good coach? It's impossible to know right away. You have to work with them to figure it out. But a good coach will be able to tell you exactly why they programmed a specific exercise at that point in the workout for that many sets and reps or for that duration, and they will not get annoyed at you asking them, and they can tell you exactly what it does and why it's there. If they can't tell you outside of it's going to make you tired, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And so I see coaches programming a lot of exercises that should not be programmed. I think the worst one of all of them is doing stuff on a Bosu ball, on that, like, especially when it's turned upside down and it's unstable. People get really mad when I talk about this. And I'll start by saying, before you get mad, go to the Bosu website and you will see on the website of Bosu, it says, do not use this upside down and stand on it. They explicitly say this. You might, well, why did they say that? So before you say like it's not a bad exercise, the company itself says you shouldn't fucking do it. And why? Well, because they have been subject to so many lawsuits from people falling off. I was an expert witness in a case in 2012 or 2013 because a coach had their client, an older woman, standing on a Bosu ball, an upside down Bosu ball, doing fucking not just squats, but like throwing a medicine ball at her and catching it. And it's like, oh, it's good for balance. She fell off. And when I say she destroyed her knee, I mean she destroyed forever. ACL, MCL, PCL, meniscus, everything gone. Life completely altered as a result of it. And this is not a standalone case. Go on Google, type in lawsuits around people standing on a Bosu ball, and you will find that there's a lot of issues and a lot of injuries around it. And Bosu, thank God, has done the right thing and said, do not stand on this ball upside down. It is very dangerous. So collect a vote, but like props to Bosu for doing that. Can some people do it? Sure. That doesn't make it a smart exercise. It's still a very stupid idea. And Bosu, by the way, there are many great things you can use the Bosu ball for. But that specific one, standing on it when it's very unbalanced, is unbelievably dangerous. And the vast majority of people shouldn't be doing it. And not to mention, the main reason people will say it's good is because of balance. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the science of balance. Yeah. Balance is demand specific. So what that means is if you're training on an unstable surface, then you are getting better at balancing on an unstable, wobbly surface. But how many times in your life are you on an unstable, wobbly surface?
Never.
Never. Even ice is stable. It's just slippery, right? So when you want to train to get better at balance, you should train in a way that mimics what you do day to day, which is probably standing on the floor. Where do most people end up falling? Going up and down stairs, going off of a curb. So I don't know, maybe doing a step up off of a stable surface, doing a lunge, doing a step down. These things mimic what you do every single day and actually have more demand specificity than standing on a wobbly surface. The main people who might benefit from an upside down Bosu ball, and I'm not recommending it just like Bosu isn't, but people who surf for their sport, people who, if you work on a boat, I don't know, like a boat might be like people who work on a boat, on a fisherman's boat might be a good idea. But then again, you probably get all you need from your
being
job
on the boat.
and from surfing, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably not worth the risk of doing that. So standing on a Bosu ball upside down doing squats is one of the all-time worst, dumbest exercises for sure.
So I've asked this question before when I had Andy Galpin on the podcast, but sex is a demanding exercise for some. It depends on a lot of factors, right? How long you're having sex, which position you're in. But there are some metabolic equivalents, right? And there's lumbar strain and hip thrusting potentially. So are there...
Potential.
Depends on the position. But so are there certain things you should do to make sure that you can continue to have sex, right? Like, let's say that the person listening to my podcast, their goal is to have a good sex life. They don't give a shit about how much they weigh. They don't care how fat they are, but they want to be able to have sex. What do we tell them?
Oh, man. I mean, there's so many different ways we could go with this. Number one, like, I'm thinking not just about sex, but also like good sex. Right? So number one is I don't think anyone likes to have sex with a dead fish.
Yeah.
Men or women, like, you don't just want to like just have someone lying there. Now, you don't have to be the Energizer Bunny either and just going like nonstop, but at least an active partner is probably something we can all agree on is nice, which means I think cardio is actually really important. And it doesn't have to be hit by like lower intensity zone 2 sustained cardio is probably going to be your best bet as the best thing for improving your aerobic base and for being able to sustain output over a longer period of time. People have this idea that high intensity cardio is better for that and it has a time and a place, but it's actually the most aerobic benefit that you get, the most benefit you get for your cardio is going to be from zone 2, lower intensity, longer duration cardio.
And you can get that from walking.
Get that from walking. You can get that from it will, the better your cardio is, the little bit more intense you're going to have to do it. So if someone's a little bit out of shape, walking will be enough to be in zone 2. Yeah. If you're a little bit more in shape, maybe jogging or going on a little bit of an incline. The best way to know if you're in zone 2 or not is use something called the talk test. You should be able to get about 12 words out without like gasping for air. If it's very difficult for you to get 12 words out, then you're out of zone 2. You're in zone 3, 4, 5. Another way to think about it is if you're having a phone conversation with someone, then they should be able to tell that you're exercising, but not so much that it's impeding the conversation.
Got it.
If it's impeding the conversation, you're at too high of an intensity. If they can't tell that you're exercising, it's too low of an intensity. So it's that range. And I would say a minimum of 20 minutes several times a week is plenty. From there, strength training is always a really good idea. But even planks are probably a generally a good idea. I don't think you want to be doing like a strict plank when you're having sex, but like it is a good idea to strength train, like to have the ability to hold yourself up if you need to. I know a lot of people talk about hip thrusts and how important they are, but like, I don't know, like for me, doing like a max effort hip thrust doesn't really replicate what sex looks like, at least in my experience. I think it makes for a good, really clickbaity Instagram video, but like that doesn't actually make the most sense to me. I would honestly say like making sure that you have a higher level of endurance and cardio is probably the most relevant transfer, unless, I don't know, people are doing crazy acrobatic movements, but maybe I'm just an older curmudgeon now, but that's just not in my repertoire right now.
It takes a lot of effort.
It does.
A lot more effort than you do when you have little kids at home.
Exactly.
All right. So we've talked a little bit about progressive overload. What about acceleration and speed of repetitions when you're doing them, or in the rep specifically?
It's a great question, and a lot of people don't talk about that. Here's what I'll say. It really depends on your goal in terms of how quickly you should be performing them. I would say for the vast majority of people who want to get stronger and more defined and build muscle, generally a slower, more controlled repetition. Now, that doesn't mean it should take 10 seconds down and 10 seconds up, but generally about, I would say, 1 to 2 seconds down and 1 to 2 seconds up. I hesitate to say the 1 because a lot of people will just be like, they count 1 in their head, but it's really 1.
Yeah.
It's like that was a fraction of a second. An easy way to keep track of this is just record a video of your set. It's not difficult. Set it up on your water bottle, whatever. Record your set, and literally you can see over time how long your repetition took. 1 to 2 seconds down, 1 to 2 seconds up is great. One of the only times this changes is if you're doing something deliberately to try and increase your speed, power, rate of force development, in which case you want to perform it more quickly and more explosively. Something like kettlebell swing is a really good example of this. It's not going to be 1 second down or 2 seconds down and 2 seconds up. It's going to be fast, quick down, quick up. And that improves your speed, your power, your rate of force development, in which case for those exercises, quicker and more explosive. The direction for that is as fast as possible without sacrificing technique. But for push-ups and rows and chin-ups and lunges and squats and main strength training exercises, 1 to 2 seconds down, 1 to 2 seconds up is plenty.
Okay. So ultimately the benefit of doing faster or more accelerated repetition would be for speed or power.
Correct. That's right. Yep.
Not necessarily going to give you more strength or more hypertrophy.
Well, you will be able to display more strength because if we think about the equation for force, force equals mass times acceleration, right? And so when people think about that equation, especially in terms of weightlifting, they often only think about the mass aspect of like how much weight you're lifting. But mass and acceleration are equal in this. In order to generate more force, it's literally their equivalent. Most people don't think about that. So if you want to display more strength, then you have to try and accelerate the weight more quickly. And that will literally lead to more force production, which is why if you're going very, very slow, you're not going to be able to lift as heavy. Because you're not accelerating as quickly. But if you lift more quickly, you'll be able to lift more. It doesn't make it better, but this is an example of if you want to display more strength in this workout, acceleration is very, very important. If you want to, I would say, focus on recruiting more muscle fibers and more motor units, and using as much muscle as possible in terms of creating more time under tension with that muscle, slowing down the acceleration is going to allow the more time under tension to recruit more motor units, more muscle fibers, which would probably be better from a building muscle size perspective. But strength isn't necessarily about muscle size. It's one aspect of it. So to display more strength, go faster. But to build more muscle, I always go a little bit more slower. So
displaying strength versus true strength, like, does that actually translate to true strength?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does translate. And the thing is, there's a time and a place for both.
Yeah.
So if you want to display strength, try and definitely move more quickly. If you want to gain strength, yes, you want to train that speed and explosive power, but you also want to get, you want to focus on time under tension in muscles and building more muscle.
So a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Generally speaking, focus on the speed and power and acceleration early in the workout, because that's when you're fatigued, it's very difficult to actually access that speed and that power and that acceleration. It's much more mentally draining, much more difficult. So speed and power should be first, and then you go into the slower and more controlled as you go into your workout.
So would you say, like, is there value in doing like maybe one set fast and then do the next one slow, or just
I wouldn't
like
alternate.
No.
I would do like it's more based on like the first 1 to 2 exercises should be more speed based.
Got it.
And then the subsequent 2 to 4 exercises a little bit more control based.
Let's talk about sleep.
Let's do it.
So sleep is super important. I've talked
Yes.
about it many times. I know you talk about it. How does sleep affect performance in terms of muscle strength gain and fat loss?
It's wild. And research is only continuing to blow me away on this, especially from a fat loss perspective. Strength for sure, but I feel like people intuitively know that a lack of sleep could really impact your performance and strength. I don't think people understand, especially even the calories in, calories out crowd really understands how much sleep impacts fat loss and muscle loss. Recent research has found that if you take 2 people and they have like the same strength training, same nutrition, whatever, but one person is not getting sufficient sleep, the amount of muscle that they lose in a caloric deficit is significantly greater than someone who's getting adequate sleep. All things created equal, except for the sleep. Sleep is has a huge impact on it. And to be candid with you, I struggle with sleep like significantly. I think any number one business owner probably struggles with sleep. I would imagine medical professionals, parents, mothers and fathers, like especially young kids. I've got a 1.5-year-old girl and Bezrat Hashem, another girl on the way, and I got a puppy, which is fucking really hard, by the way. Like way harder than the Instagram videos make you think it is. So I really struggle with sleep, and I notice not only on my performance, I also notice in terms of my mental and energy and focus, and my motivation and my hunger is impacted by it. If I don't get good sleep, I'm more hungry, and so I want to be a little bit more snacky. So sleep is unbelievably important, and also I think one of the most difficult things right now, especially with phones just right in your face all night. It's one of the reasons why I think people should, when you sleep, don't keep your phone next to you, put it across the room. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah. No, sleep is a challenge. And I just feel like a cranky child when I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like whining in my head, like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, why am I acting like a child? Oh, because I didn't sleep enough
Yes,
last
exactly.
night. What about when you injure yourself? How do you get back into the gym safely?
Oh, it's a great question. I think number one is you have to let pain be your guide. If something hurts, and we're talking about injury, well, if we're talking about not injury, like working out, you're gonna have it's gonna hurt a little bit. Like there's a difference between good pain and bad pain.
Yeah.
Good pain would be like, oh, it's burning, like you feel your muscles contracting. Like, yeah, it doesn't tickle. Strength training doesn't tickle, that's for sure. But they're sharp shooting pains.
Not a nice massage.
Yeah, exactly. Nagging, aching pains, like that's not something you should push through. Now, you should never work through pain, but you can always work around pain. So I always find it funny when someone says like, oh, I sprained my ankle, so I can't work out. And I'm like, you do know people with one leg and no legs work out, right? Like just because you have an ankle sprain doesn't mean you can't do anything. Oh, I hurt my shoulder, I can't work out. There's always something you can do. You're only limited by your imagination and by what is causing pain. If pressing overhead hurts, then don't press overhead. Try horizontal pressing. If that hurts, then just try and do pulling. And this is another thing, there's something called the crossover effect, which is unbelievably important. If you take someone and let's say they broke their arm and they get put in a cast, you take 2 people, one who doesn't work out at all and another person who does strength train with the non-injured arm. The person who works out with the non-injured arm actually retains more muscle in their injured arm.
Yeah.
But if you don't train at all, you will lose more muscle in the injured arm. So the crossover effect is super, super important to understand. And I think just the most important thing is don't work through pain, find a way to work around it. And people are like, oh, well, it's not going to be optimal. It's like, what the fuck is optimal?
Yeah.
Like nothing is optimal ever.
We're never optimal.
Ever. Optimal is a myth. And people will use perfection as a justification to do nothing altogether. Maybe it's not going to be the perfect plan, but it's better than doing nothing. So don't do something that hurts and do something else instead. And that's literally it, even if that's just walking.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I've said this before on the podcast, but my husband did rehab medicine, and they always said the path to recovery is through normal function. Like you have to sort of continually do normal things. And even after surgery now, like when, my mentors trained, they would keep people in bed for a week after surgery. Now we're like, get up, start moving immediately after surgery, because that's how you're going to get better.
That's exactly right.
And so ultimately we know that even just doing normal things with the injured organ will help it get better. What about stretching? Like, do we need to stretch? Should we be buying those massage guns and foam rollers and all that stuff? Because I certainly don't stretch enough.
So I'll start by saying, number one, massage guns, foam rollers are not the same as stretching, right? That's number one. Mm-hmm. They're not necessary. If you like it and it makes you feel good, cool. The research on those is questionable at best. You really don't need them. But the placebo around it, if someone is like, hey, I foam roll or a massage gun and it improves it reduces how much pain I'm in throughout the day, go for it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but it's definitely not necessary. So that's number one. I will say stretching is something that I have recently gotten absolutely obsessed with, but my perception of stretching has changed dramatically over the years. When I was coming up in the industry, stretching was a big, like, the fitness industry runs on a pendulum of extremes. Either it's like the best thing for you or it's the worst thing for you. Mm-hmm. Very little nuance, unfortunately. And when I was coming up in the industry and a young kid, people were like, you should never stretch. You don't need to, blah, blah, blah. And of course, that was a very dogmatic way of looking at it and not a nuanced way of looking at it. I also always just looked at stretching as just holding a stretch for 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes, and having it be super painful and boring. That's not good stretching. There's ways to stretch that are actually, number one, relatively short duration, a little bit higher intensity, that massively improve your mobility, but also your strength. So right now I'm working to get my splits, my side splits, my front splits. I'm super close to my front splits, and my pancake split, which is like you're sitting down, your legs out, and you try and pancake and fold over. The most fun for me is realizing that I'm not just holding these positions for long periods of time. I'm actually strength training just in a greater range of motion. So I'm doing these movements and other supporting movements at these increased lengths, and just getting stronger in them. And then as I get stronger in these greater ranges, I'm able to achieve them without needing to go through that big of a warm up. And for example, a lunge, we could take a lunge, right? Mm-hmm. A lunge is often seen as like your knees are at 90 degrees, but what if you did a longer lunge, mm-hmm. right? Well, now you're getting a hip flexor stretch, you're getting ankle mobility stretch, and so your calf stretch. So you take a longer lunge stance, and all of a sudden it's a very front split specific exercise where you're getting hip flexor, calf, ankle, and you can do it nice and slow and controlled for three reps, 4 reps, 5 reps. You're stretching and strength training at the same time. So that's one aspect of stretching that I think is unbelievably important. And another thing that I'll do, especially with my clients, is I superset a strength exercise with a mobility exercise. So I'll do, we'll take it just a regular lunge, but then I'll superset it with like a hamstring stretch or a glute stretch. Rather than doing the lunge and then texting or mm-hmm. going on Instagram, do the lunge, do the stretch, do the lunge, do this. You go back and forth. You're more efficient in the gym. You get the fuck off social media. You're not doom scrolling anymore. And you actually get the benefits of strength and mobility. Generally speaking, I think nowadays more men need to be doing more mobility and more women need to be doing more strength training. Mm-hmm. I think what I found is we tend to like the things we're good at and hate the things we suck at. Men naturally tend to be better at strength, and women naturally tend to be better at mobility. And there are obviously outliers and differences based on individuals, but mostly, men are better at strength. They can lift heavier, so they gravitate towards that. And women tend to be better at mobility, so they gravitate towards yoga, Pilates, things like that. Let's switch it up. Let's get more men doing a little bit more stretching and more women doing more strength training. And this way, like Louis Simmons always said, you're only as strong as your weakest link. If you are super strong, but you can't touch your toes, that's a big fucking problem. For me, one of the reasons that I love mobility and stretching and being able to do going to strange movements is because I realized as I was putting my daughter into her crib, it was very difficult for me. It's like I have to put her over this big crib and lay her down nice and softly. So I was like, I need to improve my mobility. I can deadlift 500 pounds, but putting my daughter down over this barrier is a little bit difficult for me. On the other hand, if you're super hyper flexible, but you're not strong enough to pick up a suitcase or pick up your groceries, that's also a problem. So for me, it always comes back to why is it one or the other? Let's do everything. Let's get good at everything. little bit slower progress. We're not going to just focus on one thing. We're going to focus on it all, but slow, steady progress over time rather than saying, this is the one thing we need. This is the one thing we need. Like, we need all of it. Balance is better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're tying it into real life,
Yes.
right? Like you're lifting suitcases. You're putting your suitcase up in the, in the cabin when
Yes.
you're on the airplane. You're putting your daughter in the crib. Like these are things we need to do. And we got to work on it now so that when we're 80, we're
Yes.
still able to do all those things.
My first client, his name was Fred, 68-year-old guy. True story. My first ever client, his goal was to be able to pick up his grandson without hurting his shoulder because he had rotator cuff issues. This is when I fell in love with coaching. It's because I was more excited to help Fred achieve his goals than I was to reach my own goals. And just being able to see Fred pick up his grandkid without hurting his shoulder is like, that's amazing. And that's real life. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose fat or look better. I think there a lot of confidence comes with that and health comes with that. But the reality is strength training and exercise should be done so that you can function better in life and live not just a longer life, but have a healthier lifespan and health span so that you can do things when you're older and now. I mean, I'm in my 30s and friends that I grew up with are like, they're severely limited. They have back pain, throwing their backs out, and they're in their fucking 30s.
Jeez.
It's like, it's not good. So I think, and it only gets harder. It gets more difficult. And so flexibility, strength, conditioning, we need all of it. And so the good news is you don't need to do outrageous amounts in order to see great progress. Just a little bit here and there, a couple days a week. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It really, really does. I want to ask a question that I got from my audience, which was, how do you figure out a protein powder to use? Like, what do you look for? What are some types of protein? I mean, obviously there's different types. So which ones do you prefer? Yeah,
so it's a great question. The reality is, number one, I'll start with protein powders are not special. I use protein powder, and I'll tell which one I use in a second. It's not a sales pitch. It's just the company that I prefer. But regardless of whether you use protein powder or not, it's not special. It's not magical. It's fucking protein. Yeah. And the main benefit is it's convenient. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, you don't have to have a chicken breast at 8:30 p.m. if you don't want to. It's just a quick, easy, convenient way, hit your protein intake. Most protein powders that I've tried have tasted like shit, like chalk. It was really bad, just not good. So the company that I've used it for years. It's called Legion Athletics. I like them, number one. I'm very good friends with the owner, to be very upfront about it. But even before I became friends with the owner, I was buying their supplements because I really enjoyed it. Very high quality ingredients. And my favorite thing outside of the high quality and outside of the taste, because they taste amazing, is supplement companies will very often use a loophole in which they say we have a proprietary blend. Mm-hmm. And the proprietary blend is essentially their way of being able to not actually tell you what and how much is in their product. Right. And so they can get away with not giving you even sufficient doses in order to accomplish what the goal should be. Legion doesn't do that. They don't put proprietary blend. They tell you exactly how much and in what quantities and what ingredients are in there, which I personally love. So I will always support Legion as long as they continue doing that, and their flavors are amazing. I like their cinnamon cereal and also their strawberry banana. Strawberry banana is really, the cinnamon cereal, people say like it tastes like, but it doesn't actually, like cinnamon cereal legitimately tastes like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's my wife's favorite. It was my favorite, and then I overdid it. So now I like the strawberry banana. Either way, they have tons of different flavors that are great. The other thing is there are many different types of protein powders. So you have whey, you have casein, you have isolates, you have egg proteins, all this stuff. My two favorites are either whey or casein, and the main difference is the rate of digestion. So, or speed of absorption. Whey is a faster digesting protein, and casein is a slower digesting protein. Whey is digested around like 8 to 10 grams per hour, and casein, depending on the research, is usually like 2 to 3 grams per hour or so. Now, practically, in terms of your results, doesn't make a difference. Total protein by the end of the day is fine. That's the most important. And you can sort of mimic these proteins by just how you eat your food in general. So if you just have a chicken breast, that's like similar to having a whey protein shake. But if you have chicken breast with a salad and sweet potato and some avocado, it's going to slow the digestion. So it's more mimicking casein, right? Mm-hmm. For many years, people thought you should have whey before and after you work out because it's more rapidly digesting, and casein something maybe before you go to bed because it's the slower digesting. So you have steady stream of amino acids throughout the night. Doesn't matter. As long as your total protein for the day is good, then you're fine. I like casein before bed because not only is it slower digesting, but because of the composition, it's thicker. It fills you up more. So I make these like protein puddings, or my wife makes these protein puddings, very easy. Like literally just scoop of protein or 2 scoops of protein with a little bit of milk. You just need a very little amount of liquid in order to make a make a pudding out of it. Put it in the fridge for a couple hours, maybe some chocolate chips, good to go. Whey, because it's faster digesting, the composition is more liquidy and watery. So it's more of a shake. So if I'm really full and I need to get my protein in, I'll have whey because it doesn't sit in my stomach as heavy. If I'm trying to lose some body fat and I'm a little bit more hungry, I'll have casein because it fills me up more.
Do you think pea protein is good enough for people who are maybe plant-based or don't digest milk-based proteins well?
Yeah, I've yet to find one that tastes good, but like in terms of protein composition, like it's definitely good enough. I wouldn't say it's optimal, but it's good enough for sure.
Okay, cool. I want to end with a point. Like, I feel like the fitness industry is riddled with shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
People saying, take this supplement, it's going to boost your strength, it's going to make you whatever, try, or even off-label, sort of black market sort of things. I mean, I know why people are so focused on shortcuts, but I think I want to leave people, and I think you can add to this, is like, there are no shortcuts. Like you have to do the work. You have to cut calories and move more in order to get the body you want.
Yeah. I mean, if someone is selling you on a shortcut, they're selling you horse shit.
Yeah.
And we have to understand, if there was a shortcut, everyone would do it.
Right.
That would be it. It'd be it would be easy and we would all be on it. And unfortunately, there's not as much money to be made in being honest in the fitness industry. There's not as much money. There's not as many views. There's not as many likes. There's not as many clicks. There's not as much opportunity to make a buck if you're just being honest about how it's going to be difficult and you have to be consistent. Not as much. So most people are going to sell you nonsense. They're going to sell you this idea of a quick fix. Maybe it's going to come from doing this one unique exercise, or taking this one unique supplement, or doing this one unique supplement. It's always like this one crazy unique hack. It's like, shut the fuck up.
You didn't know this. Yeah. I bet you didn't know this.
Doctors don't want you to know, like, the one thing your personal trainer doesn't want you to have. Like, stop clicking on that stuff, by the way, because the more you click on it, the more it encourages people to do this clickbait horseshit.
Yeah.
But there is no quick fix, and there is no one size fits all. It's, you've got to put in the work over a long period of time. You got to get your reps in, literally and figuratively, and it's not easy. It's very difficult, but you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be 100% consistent, and especially whether it's nutrition, working out. I don't want my clients to be 100% consistent. 100% consistent is a prison. Perfect is prison. I would much rather shoot for that like 80% range, because at least that way you can enjoy your life. You can enjoy your favorite foods. You can enjoy social events and gatherings. You can have more leeway with your workouts. I don't want you to be 100% because that's not fun. Like, we're not here just for that one purpose of fitness and hardcore. We're here to enjoy life and to be a wonderful member of society, be a great person. I always think back to the parent who like is on vacation with their kids and like they're really upset and mad because they can't get their workout in. It's like, you're on vacation with your kids. You should if you get a workout in, great, but you shouldn't be taking it out on your kids because you can't get your fucking workout in. It's like, relax. You're on vacation. So it's I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for consistency. That's all it is.
Right. And I think, the stress of consistency and the stress of 100% consistency is going to be worse on you overall than what you would get if you were 80% consistent and enjoying your life. I mean, you can enjoy your life while you're consistent. I'm not saying you can't, but like enjoying food or enjoying relaxing or whatever it is with your family, because I think that's so important. Otherwise, it's too much stress. Like, oh, am I eating? I mean, I worry about this as a doctor, right? People are like, well, how can I avoid microplastics? Or like, what can I? And I'm like, just don't drink out of a plastic water bottle and don't heat your food up in plastic. Like, let's not go crazy here because you can't control everything. Exactly. Right? Even if you live off the grid or whatever, like, you're still going to be exposed to stuff. I mean, you look at the data, 90% of people have some, endocrine disrupting chemical in their urine. Like, it is what it is. Like, I can't change that, but you can, but stop obsessing over that, work out, eat right, and reduce your stress and sleep well. And like 90% of your problems will be solved.
I couldn't agree more. And the stress that you're imposing on yourself is going to be worse for your health than the other shit that you're doing. Yeah. It's like when you create all this extra stress and everything that comes downstream from that stress, it's way worse
Yeah.
Just accept what you can control, and just do it and take control of what you can and accept what you can't and move forward.
Right. Right. So we end our podcast with some questions that we ask everybody. So, and these don't have to be related to your expertise. They can be outside of it. But one is, so say aliens came to the earth tomorrow and they took away your ability to train anybody. Like you just lost all your knowledge that you've gained over the course of your life. So you couldn't be a trainer anymore. What would you do?
I'd be a history professor.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
I love history. I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm absolutely obsessed with history.
What is the most interesting historical era or fact or person?
So there are 3 time frames that I really like. Number 1 is medieval history. Medieval history is wild. Like anytime people are like, oh God, the world is just going to shit, I'm like, go look at medieval history. Like we live in an amazing time, especially like if you're in a first world country, like we're so blessed. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So medieval history is very, very interesting and unique. I obviously I like Roman history, the Roman Empire. I know that's a big thing, but like I love it. And then World War II, I'm obsessed with it. I'm Jewish, and so like I'm very involved in that. But people hear World War II and they automatically think Holocaust, and they forget that it was a multi-front war in Japan, and it was even in Africa as well. Like I love learning about it. I'm so interested in it. I think now, especially right now, it's a very interesting time because people hear about propaganda and they often think of like previous wars and history, and they don't understand that we're fed propaganda every day. Like medical propaganda, nutrition, fitness propaganda, geopolitic propaganda every day on your feed. Your feed is just constant. Like the news, I don't care if it's CNN or Fox, you're just constantly fed shit and you don't know what to believe. And your perception is being skewed based off of the narrative of what they want you to believe. Now, it happens right now.
Which is all fear.
It's all fear.
Yeah.
It's 100% fear. And so, yeah, long roundabout way of saying that I would be a history professor. People always ask if I could have a meal with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? And they're shocked. It would be Hitler. I've studied Hitler a lot. Very, very unique individual to say the least. But as a Jew, I would love to sit down and I'd want to try and figure him out.
Well, I mean, I think the part of that history that's so fascinating to me is like how he convinced all these people to do these horrible things. Like, how could one person be that persuasive?
Yeah, I mean, and this leads into propaganda and all that. Like his propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, was a genius, but it definitely wasn't one man, but they were so systemized and it was so calculated, and it was one thing at a time. Also, we have to realize it was the perfect storm of events in terms of World War I. You can't understand how World War II happened and how the Holocaust happened without understanding World War I and the terrible position that Germany was put in as a result of it, as a result of the Treaty of Versailles. Inflation was through the roof. They were looking for a scapegoat of someone to blame, and they were able to blame the Jews. Absolutely wild, and there's a lot of parallels to what's going on right now. As always, there always is. Like there's a famous quote. It might have been Mark Twain. I think it's like history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Yeah. It's like things are rhyming a lot right now.
Yeah, you know, my last guest was really into history too.
Oh, really?
So what's a life hack or health hack you'd share with everybody? Something you haven't talked about already.
Oh man, life hack or health hack. Let's see. What's really important to remember is that if you're going through something, if you're feeling something, other people are going through it too. For me, I think it's in the age of social media, it's so easy to compare yourself to other people, but you're not really comparing yourself to other people. You're comparing yourself to the image that they want you to believe is going on.
Their highlight reel.
Exactly.
Or their victim reel or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
100%. And I think even though we're more connected than ever, I think we're lonelier than ever. And it's because of this projection and like where we're comparing to this false idea of what's actually happening. And if you're feeling it, I guarantee you other people are feeling it well. And not just some people, I would say most, if not all people are feeling it in some way, shape, or form. My recommendation would be is to get off of social media, which is funny because this is on social media, but get off and get an in-person community.
Yeah.
Join a club. Go to a house of worship, do something in person, because it's so easy to be online, just be like, people are the worst, they're evil, da-da-da. When you meet people in person, you're like, most people are pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. They're the vast majority of people. And like you said, news and social media highlights fear, which further isolates us. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and it's the famous quote, like, we're better together than we are divided. Evil wants to divide us. And I think having in-person relationships now is, aside from being one of the most helpful things you can do, it's so important, to understand like most people are good. And I think to connect with people and to interact with people and have this in-person human connection is just, it's paramount at this point in time.
It's life-threatening not to.
Correct.
So, we know that mortality is higher in people who don't have social connections, but even just social like bonds in passing.
Yes.
So like talking to people at the coffee shop or your grocery store clerk or whatever it is. So like having those connections is so important. I think we have to work at it.
Yes,
now.
100%.
We didn't have to. Like my parents' generation, they love talking to other people. They can strike up a conversation with anybody. But like nowadays, you'll see that people like will just be on their phones. They'll be hanging out with a group of people and everyone's looking at their phones.
Yes.
Like, what is the point,
Yeah.
right? Like put your phone away. It takes work, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
What's a non-negotiable for you, something you think you have to do every day?
I mean, as of right now, have breakfast with my daughter, which is just like the absolute best thing ever. And it's ironic because, I'm traveling, so I didn't have breakfast with her today.
Yeah.
But when I'm home, every day have breakfast. Like nothing is scheduled. I'm having breakfast with her every day. She's just, it's funny. Like my whole life I've heard people say having kids is the best and and like I was like, yeah. It's like, no, it's actually the single greatest thing in the world. And the best way I can, like I have nothing against whatever someone does. I've never done like ecstasy or any of these drugs. I've heard that you like see new colors. You can like if you do something like a mushrooms or I don't know. I'm super ignorant on this stuff.
Yeah, I don't.
But you do these drugs, you see new colors, and you see like that. For me, is the amount of love that I have for my daughter. I feel like she's unlocked these new emotions that I didn't have before. I feel things that I've actually never felt before. I've felt happiness and I've felt anger and I've felt jealousy and I've felt joy and pleasure, like all these things. And I felt love, but the love for a child,
so different.
it's actually different, and it's the best. So
you're about to have your second,
Yeah.
and I will tell you, I remember when we were about to have our second that I was worried I couldn't love my second. I couldn't love anyone as much as I loved my first.
Yeah.
You will, and you will love them, and it's amazing.
How old are your kids?
10 and 7.
That's amazing. Is it
And they're
boys?
Boys, 2 boys.
That's awesome.
But it is really amazing. It's hard. Like let's be real. It is hard to be a parent, and you don't know what you're doing half the time, and you're trying your best. But it is amazing, and it's a blessing. And so I'm grateful for that too.
Yeah.
So I guess this may be the answer to this question, but what's something you know now in your life that you wish you knew earlier?
I wish I knew how great it is to just be yourself in all moments and in all times, like to truly present yourself as you are. I know a lot of people will say things like, well, I don't know what to say. Say that. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what to say, like, oh, I don't know what to say. If you are nervous, people ask me random piece of advice all the time. Even though I'm a fitness guy, they'll be like, I'm going to a job interview and I'm really nervous. What do I say? Say that. Say that you're really nervous. Like sit down at the job interview and just be like, I just want to let you know before we start, I'm really nervous right now. And maybe that's going to come across with a shaky voice. Maybe I'll be here and I'll be a little bit, I'll draw a blank. I just wanted to give you forewarning. I'm nervous. Saying whatever you're feeling truthfully in that moment, I think is a superpower, because so much of what we do is based around trying to make people think that we are feeling something or thinking something.
Or know something.
Yeah. If you just say exactly what you're thinking and how you're feeling, it's not only freeing for you and it feels amazing, it's disarming in a very endearing way. Because I think people receive you much better, and it brings down the walls of a conversation. It takes a load, this self-imposed pressure that we put on ourselves to live up to something or to be something that we're not. When you just are like, this is it. Like, this is what I feel. When I was younger, I had this idea that, especially I think for men, like I shouldn't express how I'm feeling. I should just shove it down, and like don't be honest, don't be vulnerable. What's funny is like, the more I've just said how it is, the stronger I feel. And I think so much of shoving it down and not saying it is actually done out of weakness and out of fear. Whereas when you can just say it like it is, it's actually improving your strength and improving your resilience, because you're putting your most vulnerable self out there.
Yeah.
And ironically, people will respond much better to that.
Yeah, well, society does make it hard. It's not just, I don't think it's necessarily fear. It's also fear of what society is going to think.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that you are enough. Like what you
Yes.
bring to the table is enough.
Yes.
And if someone likes you for who you are, that's great. I can't imagine living my life pretending to be someone else.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine showing up every day and putting on an act? Like, it'd
No.
be horrible.
People say, I'm sure you get this when they see you in person from social media, like, oh, you're exactly like you are online. And in my mind, I'm like, could you imagine
If I
was
wasn't?
different? That would be very bad.
Be exhausting.
And there are people who put on an act online, and it's just, that's why I think they have imposter syndrome, because they're putting on an act. It's like, you're pretending to be someone you're not. So of course you have imposter syndrome. When you are who you are, it's very easy to just accept, oh, this is it. This is who I am.
And I think people resonate with it, because I don't think I'm like when I present myself on social media, I'm literally, that's how I talk to my patients. Like, this is how I am. And I feel like if I tried to be something else, it would be obvious.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I've seen many other people on social media where I'm like, that's not you.
Yes.
Like, that's someone else.
It's a
you know?
shtick.
And you're trying too hard, and like, just be yourself. Like, yeah, you need a little more energy than you would like when you're talking to your friend, but it's like, it's still just you.
Correct.
But yeah.
I completely agree.
So Jordan, where can people find you?
You know, I have my own YouTube channel, Jordan Syatt, podcast, the Jordan Syatt mini podcast. It's not mini.
Yeah, why did you call it the mini podcast?
So I called it the mini podcast because I started it was either 2017 or 2018. And in my mind, I was going to do brief clips of like 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I ramble, if you couldn't tell. And so they ended up being hour plus. And so I was like, I'm just not going to change the name.
Yeah.
So it's not mini, but it's the Jordan Syatt mini podcast, my
Got
YouTube channel, and Instagram, Syatt Fitness.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the Rena Malik MD podcast. Guys, do me one favor. If you're enjoying this podcast, leave me a rating or review on iTunes or Spotify so people can find my podcast all around the world. Also, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and share this channel with your friends. And as always, remember to take care of yourself, because you're worth it.